Welcome to the Tao of Pizza, where we feature top logistics leaders, entrepreneurs, and supply chain innovators and share their inspiring stories with a holistic twist.
So Mark Hiddleson here, host of the Tao of Pizza podcast, where I talk with top industry innovators in the warehousing, logistics, and supply chain business with a holistic twist. Before I introduce today's guest, Sal Fateen, this episode is brought to you by Specialized Storage Solutions. Listen, I've been in the logistics and storage industry for several decades. I know I don't look that old, but it's true. We provide industry-leading warehouse storage solutions nationwide. So basically, if you have a warehouse that needs racks, shelving, carts, conveyors, or mezzanines, we can help with design, engineering, installations, inspections, and repairs to help clients optimize their logistics operations. You know, it's funny, Sal, sometimes people don't even realize we can actually help with permit acquisition services. We take a holistic look at your entire business supply chain ecosystem to develop the resources for continually improving your operation. To learn more, visit specialracks.com or give us a call at 732-3892. And I'm even going to give my personal email to podcast listeners. It's markhiddleson@aol.com. So if you're ready to take your warehouse storage and retrieval systems to the next level. Now, Sal Fateen has been serving the material handling industry for over 50 years. He has a master's degree in structural engineering. He's registered and practicing in all 50 states. Sal's generously served the industry through nonprofits, including MHI, the Material Handling Institute, MAHITA, the Material Handling Equipment Dealers Association, and the Material Handling Education Foundation. Not only is Sal a thought leader in structural engineering, he's an inspiring family man, great friend, and world-class amateur golf tournament champion and superhost extraordinaire. Sal, welcome to the Tao Pizza.
Thank you.
You are the reigning champion.
Well, I am. I mean, I've won a few tournaments here and there. I'm slowing down the tournaments
Yeah.
play because of the game being deteriorating, but it's still a lot of fun playing. Enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you made time for us. I know you're busy because you're still involved in the company. You're still trying to get plenty of golf in. So I really appreciate that you joined us. This is huge for our audience.
Sure.
I want to kind of give people an idea how you got into this industry. I know you went to it was University of Maryland, right? University of Maryland.
Yes, I did. I got my master's degree at University of Maryland, and I was looking for a job. Didn't know where to look, so I'm looking at the papers and things like that. My thesis advisor at the university was hired by a company to review the racking, and they said they were looking for a structural engineer. That company's name was Arco Corporation. They used to make a round tube rack, and in Hatfield, Pennsylvania. And I interviewed with them, and they offered me a job, and I accepted. I moved to Hatfield, Pennsylvania for about a year and a half, and then I got another headhunter contacted me and said, yeah, he knows a company that's looking for someone to run the R&D. And the company that I went to see happened to be Arco Industries or Sturdy Belt. And I went to talk to them, and they said, after we talked, and they said, do you have a license? I said, I have a license in Pennsylvania, but that's the only license I have. And they were asking me, do you want to have the job at the R&D in living in Chicago, or you want to be the regional engineer in New Jersey for the East Coast, or the regional engineer in the West Coast in California? I said, California.
Yeah, Hollywood, baby. Nice.
So they sent me to California to meet with the division manager here, and everything was good. And he offered me the job, and I accepted. And they moved me to California. They moved my furniture, whatever little furniture we had. We used to have a one-bedroom apartment there in Pennsylvania. And I spent about 2 weeks in Chicago learning what they're doing, what the Sturdyville does, UNARCO and the people and all that, and then moved to California and had 2 years in with UNARCO and got to know the dealers that we were handling their projects. And one of them happened to be M.E. Canfield Company. And they're the largest material handling distributor on the West Coast. They were at the time. So needless to say, I did work with them and then decided I wasn't too happy with the not making enough money at UNARCO. So I got a job with the M.E. Canfield and got into and they gave me a job to be manager of the conveyor department. So I went from rack to conveyor. They asked me, what do I know about conveyor? I said, nothing. But I mean, I can learn. What do you know about management? I said, nothing, but I can learn. So needless to say, after 2 years, I became major project director and the larger projects. And after another 3 more years, when my buddy Ron Mikas decided to move to Phoenix, and I was going to leave, they offered me a position to be general sales manager. So I went from engineer to a conveyor guy, from a rack engineer to a conveyor guy to be in charge of major projects, to be in charge of sales. And when they didn't make me general manager, I left.
That's how you love.
And went with a company called Clark Lift of LA. And they had me run their Allied division. And they claimed that they wanted to build it up to be as big as we had at Canfield. That was incorrect. They really wanted to sell forklift. And I was the Allied division of the forklift, and that didn't work out. That's when I left and started Seismic. I figured I can put food on the table because I have one license, and one became 2, became 3, became 4, and then I had an employee and then 2 employees, and now we have about 60 employees, and we have 4 divisions of the company, and life is good. And I do business with everybody, with all facets of the industry. I deal with manufacturers, distributors, dealers, end users, government agencies, what have you. Again, I got my degree in 72. So I've been in the industry since 72. So 51 years now. So,
nice.
And Seismic has been in business for 37 years. So that's good too. So yeah, so I know what the skeletons are.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time, so we've been doing business with Seismic since about 2005. So there's a lot to unpack in that story. I love, you'd shared with me about M.E. Canfield before, but I never realized it was your advisor for your thesis introduced you to the material handling, because most people don't know this business exists really, about the racking, the shelving, and everything that's involved. And you've been a visionary in making things, you've been involved in the codes and changing of anchors the way. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I wanted to talk about Mike, because he's the one that introduced us. And we've done a lot of business with Seismic most of the years, but I've mostly dealt with Nancy starting in 2005. And that was for the permit acquisition. Ron introduced me to Nancy, and I've had Nancy on the podcast. I know maybe I should have had you first. But
no, this is good.
her episode,
someone opened the road for me.
Yeah, but and she introduced us to the idea, and I really appreciate you're doing this. This is huge for our audience because you're such a great resource. But so the M.E. Canfield was a distributor of UNARCO. So UNARCO was a manufacturer.
The distributor of UNARCO, distributor of forklift trucks, distributor of conveyors. Anything that had to do with material handling. That was, and they were the largest on the West Coast. They competed with the Raymond dealer, and not the Crown dealer was still very new, so they didn't compete as much. But they were the largest distributor of rack for several years in a row.
But they were specializing, because I think one of the things, and you mentioned this is a lot of our competition, which for us, it's not really competition because they don't do the same thing we do. A lot of people are buying their rack from their forklift guys. And there's some great people who sell forklifts, and there's some great people who sell racks, but there's very few distributors that are doing both really well. And I think forklift industry, like you said, Clark, they wanted to sell lifts. Like that's the number they measure, the ITAs. And,
Yes.
and that drives everything. And then the rack is kind of, oh, by the way, we do rack, but ours is different. We focus on and it's called Allied. You were the GM of the Allied side. Things have kind of changed, but I wanted you to kind of, and then I got to ask you, so I'm going to do a 2-part questions is, Micus is the one that introduced us, and he was one of my, I brought him up on anytime Mbia asked me, how did you start your company or why did you start your company? He's always the first one, because he said in a bunch of 4-letter words, basically, that it's time. So he was a great friend and he taught me so much. And the reason he could talk to me like that is he had earned it. He was just kind of that kind of guy. But how did your friendship, if it started at Canfield, or was he a distributor when you were working with Narco? How did that friendship evolve?
He was the sales manager of Canfield Company. And I came in as the only engineer that happens to be knowing about tracks, because when I was with Sturdybuilt or Unarco, I was dealing with them, with Canfield and Ron Micus. When I came into the conveyor department, I didn't forget that I'm in the rack business too. And we had a conveyor shop, that I decided to make it a manufacturing shop. So we started fabricating stuff. So Ron Micus and his sales force would find a need for a widget to be made. He talked to me about it. We make it in our shop. We sell it, makes money, and we developed. Then at some point in time, as we were both in the company long enough, I think he was in it maybe a year and a half before I got there. So we were there long enough. We got to be friends. We used to compete, he and I, who makes the first pot of coffee at the company. That's when we all used to smoke at the office. And Art Canfield used to be number 2 or 3 to come into the office with us. So at some point in time, when we got seasoned enough, the Canfield Brothers that owned the company decided to see if they can convince us to stay longer. So we ended up buying a piece of company, a little piece, like a 5% or 2.5% each, or something like that, so that we'll have interest in the company, continuity, and all that. So when Ron Micus decided to leave and go to Phoenix to start his own company with Jim Radzik, that's when the position of sales manager became available, and they offered it to me because they knew that my ego was way up there. I needed to be something. So, but they didn't know is that when I was there, a lot of people my door was always open. People would come talk to me, and I'd go talk to Art Canfield and Milt Canfield and all that. And at some point in time, Art said, "Why are they going to you?" I said, "Because I listen to them." I mean, even the janitor would come and complain to me about something, and I go. So anyway, and that's when I realized that I was almost acting as general manager. And I told Art Canfield that, and he said, "But that's my position." I said, "I don't care. I mean, That's what I'm doing. I'm not acting just as a sales manager, I'm acting as a general manager. So if he could not give me that position. Let me turn the lights on.
Yeah.
Usually I wave my hand and the lights come back on, but maybe I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I became the general sales manager, and after a year or so, I didn't feel that they were going the right direction with me anyway, because I figured after being general sales manager, what am I going to be? The one brother was the president, the other brother was general manager, so I'm going to be saying. So anyway, so I said I'm leaving, and I think I keep saying 7 offers, or at least 7 companies that wanted to talk to me about going to work for them, and I ended up with Clark Cliff just because they happen to be close proximity physically, and had the right words to tell me that they're going to be in the allied business and all that, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And that's when I figured, okay, I don't want to work for anyone anymore. I want to work for myself. I'm in control of my destiny,
Yeah.
and I will do what I have to do. And decided at the time that I need to service my customers. I need to service the end user. That's why we had started with engineering, and we then went to submitting plans to the city. We went to fabricating whatever components that are needed, and just things. And then now we have the testing lab. So all 4 divisions that we have now are intended to service, to be a one-stop shop for any of the customers, whether they're end users or whether they're distributors, dealers, systems integrators, whatever they may be. We service all their needs. So, and it's good. It's good because my involvement with the MHI and the RMI and HIDA and all that, I get to meet all my customers, and my customers are my friends. 90% of my personal customers are my friends. Now the company has customers that I don't know about, but I sign their plans and give them calculations and all that. But a lot of them don't know me personally, and I don't know personally. But we know each other by reputation.
Yeah.
So
I mostly know you by reputation. You've since we've done business, well, we've done business with all 3 divisions. Obviously, we've used you for pulling permits. We try to use it almost exclusively for any kind of platforms, that we need. Or like you said, I never realized that you did that long ago. With it was UNARCO or the Emmy Canfield. You built the shop that did the custom, whether it was column protectors or rack components or replacement.
Yeah, we started. It started. I mean, I do a lot of projects at home. We used to anyway, and so I have the tools and I know how to do the tools. So I have shop guys, and my boss at Canfield used to yell at me and say, when he sees me grinding something or doing something in the shop, he said, "Why do you do that? We have people to do that." I said, "I know, but I need to do it so I know how long it takes to be done." So when I tell someone to do it, I say, "It's not my job and I can do it in this time. It's your job. You better do it quicker and better." So just knowing. So it's always learning by doing it myself. Everything that we've done, I did it. I started. First project I had with seismic was for Safeway to cut an opening in their pick module so that they can put the conveyor from the second level to the first level. So I didn't do anything with the conveyor at the time. I just cut the opening. The second project I had was to build a bridge between a manufacturing and a distribution warehouse of a company and install double-deck conveyor, which I did. So you hire one guy here, and a lot of my employees were part-time employees that used to work for somebody else because most of my work was on weekends. So I do it on weekends, and I have. So anyway, it was a good ride. Just that. and learning all the pieces of material handling. So that's when people say, well, there are other engineers that are in the business. Yes, they are. Engineers are available everywhere. They graduate every year. It's like attorneys. You can have a lot of attorneys.
Yeah.
But do they have the knowledge? Do they have the experience? Do they have the background? And that's the one thing that I say is as valuable as can be. And that's what's keeping us ahead of the curve, ahead of everybody. I mean, there are some people that leave me and go start, engineers that leave and start their own company doing the same thing. Some survive and some flunk.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bother me one bit either way. I said, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about what they do. We do good. And that's what Nancy's doing. Nancy is taking this company to a more scientific level because she has a business degree. I didn't have a business degree. I'm just knowing things by seat of the pants, so to speak. Kind of like you, Mark.
Yeah.
Whatever is right, we do. Okay, whatever looks right.
Yeah, when you talk about hiring people, that's a lot of the way we've built our jobs where we have, even our warehouses before we've had our clients, because our clients are in the third party warehouse, they run a warehouse for somebody else. So a lot of time we kept our inventory at a third party warehouse and we didn't even have our own employees running the warehouse. We're using the third party logistics. And like you said, they're not a full-time employee. It's just, we might need them 10 hours one week. We might need them 30, the other or 25. And we're sending both of Cody and Drake are both going to fabrication school in January. So
yeah,
I like the, I might be asking for some advice on what kind of, because there is an opportunity. And you reminded me when you were talking about the special projects, we used you guys a few years ago. It's probably been 8, maybe 10 years ago. We had to build a conveyor maintenance platforms. And this was, I think it was CVS. They had a conveyor they were always having to service, and it was over a DEA cage. And so the cage kind of blocked access to the conveyors to service it, but they wanted to build a platform. And you design something that, the other thing is we had to build this thing over the DEA cage, but we couldn't penetrate it because they have to leave this thing locked. I mean, it's crazy, the laws they have, these and the alarms and everything. So you design something that we installed and all the dimensions were perfect. We just set it right on top. So all the spans, it had to be the span and all the dimensions. So those are fun projects to get involved in when you can build something that custom.
What ends up happening, and it happened a lot in one of the first projects I got involved with was the Gap in Fresno, that Fresno area. And they built a warehouse, had conveyors everywhere, and then they keep enlarging the warehouse and putting more conveyors. And before they knew it, they looked and figured out they can't access the conveyors way up there to maintain them. So now what are we going to do? And that's what we got involved in looking at it. And they said, well, actually, an installer is the one that told us about it. So we went and said, okay, we can do it. You install it. He said, oh no, you install it. You can handle the project. So we did. We just designed something. We went and installed it, and that got us into the maintenance catwalks, platforms, and all that. Granted, we do larger projects when we have good customers that deal with us, but we don't compete with the mega SSI, which is Steel Solutions, or Wildeck. I mean, these are companies that I didn't want to grow up that big in the manufacturing because engineering is still a company. So we have 60 employees is fine, great. We go bigger than that. And now I have to get involved and have to work harder. And I don't want to work hard anymore. I'm at my prime now. So I got to enjoy it.
Nice. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing in the industry? I mean, you were really on the forefront with the permit acquisition. I think Nancy started that in 2005. I asked her, and then everyone has to check out Nancy's episode. It's still the most popular one on there. She is great. I mean, I've always looked up to her. Business person. Anything I've needed something done at Seismic, even if it wasn't her job, and before she was the CEO, she's always been the COO for me. She can always get things done, So they definitely have. You got to wave your hands. I got to keep you awake.
Yeah, it's like I'm falling asleep.
So check out the Nancy one, and yeah. So what's the trends that you're seeing? How things have kind of changed. The past few years.
So the key is that everything is becoming more automated, more electronic, and we in this country were on the at the lower end of the scale.
Yeah.
So European companies we're doing a lot of business with new European companies. They come in and they have whatever it could be. Started with robots, and now you have the fully automated rack supported building. You have something like AutoStore, which is a storage system that's again fully automated. It handles material, and there are like 3 or 4 companies that have similar storage devices. There are shuttle systems that takes the product, go up, put it throw it away, keep it. When the time comes, push a button, and it brings it back down. So all of that was in this country on a smaller scale. We had carousels, okay, and carousels became automated carousels where you push a button and it gets you the section to pick from. Now robots are picking stuff, and the machine is bringing the stuff to the robot. So the robot picks it up, puts it on a packet, the conveyor takes it to another location, that robot unloads it. So all that is very new. You don't need as many people to run it. Confuses the heck out of the guys at the building departments because they haven't seen that. And fire department says, what are you going to do about fire? Well, there are no people there to protect from fire. So all we have to do is protect the building from having a fire, but it's not protecting the people. Egress doesn't become an issue when you have a non-occupied warehouse. And so a lot of warehouses, they may not all be unoccupied, but they have a lot of sections that are very unoccupied, and they just product goes in, product goes out, gets packaged and all that, and gets sealed automatically and ends up at the end. So that is definitely the trend. And if people don't, if dealers, distributors, systems integrators, manufacturers don't get into that, it becomes a problem. When the Chinese rack started coming into the States, a lot of the American manufacturers of racks decided they wanted to prevent them from being able to sell it by having restrictions and all that. Well, it worked for a while, and then it changed, and then a lot of American companies that make product here, they said, well, we can make a cheap product, and they started making products in China and elsewhere to say, well, we do the Cadillac here, but if you want a Chevy or a Volkswagen or a smaller car, we have other models, and here it is. So, and they're changing. They're becoming more automated. You don't find a lot of, let's say, rack companies that still weld by hand welders. They have automated welders. Product goes in, product comes out, and not a lot of hands don't touch it, except when you need to, like a base plate or beam to column connectors and things like that. So it's different, and I'm glad that I saw it when it was archaic and old fashioned, and now I see it automated. At least I grew with the automation, so it's not that novelty to me. It's just interesting to see how many new companies that come into the United States that contact us. Typically, they contact MHI, and MHI or RMI or whatever they say, well, here's a company that can help you with all that. And so it's been good. It's good, and I love toys. I want to call them toys. So I enjoy all the new systems that handles products. If it's fully automated, I need to know it inside and out and all that. I need to understand it because I'm an engineer. So once I understand it, at least I can explain it to somebody else. So it works out pretty good.
Yeah, and you don't miss. So MHI they do. It used to be ProMat every other year, and now they do ProMat 1 year, and they do Modex the
That's correct.
next. And that's where all of those new technologies. I mean, I've probably been to 10 of them in the last 20 years, but that's where you see the cutting edge of technology, and we have been. The reason we're behind, I think we're about 20. I mean, it's never exact. We're about 20 years behind Europe as far as the percentage of automation and warehouses. And it's because their labor and land costs are so much higher. So the payoff has been there for longer. But a lot of these systems, they pay for themselves in a year and a half or 2 years. I mean, that's what I'm seeing with automation because of the just the efficiencies.
But like everything else, things move exponentially. I mean,
faster and faster.
So even though we're 20 years behind,
Yeah.
now that a lot of the European companies come here to do business, they allied with American companies. So American companies go up the speed and do the same. And there's a lot of companies, purchasing companies, and just the whole thing widens up that we're all going to be working for the machine anyway.
Yeah, like I just read Player Piano, which is a Kurt Vonnegut novel, and it's about the ultimate automated America. It was written in like the 50s, early 50s, and now we're basically here, like stuff in the book. We've kind of passed the way it was in the book.
Yes.
You're just gonna let the machines figure it out, and then we punch in the data. But luckily there's some of the things that the machines can't figure out. But it is interesting. I wanted to ask you about these are the tougher questions that I promised you. You said you'd answer anything, but a lot of our clients, when I go to a client, most of the time, if I walk in, if they have racking, it's an existing system, and people, they don't have the documentation on it, or sometimes they do. We try to help people take care of an existing system. We've had people, and I go in there and I can tell it's not right. So we've engaged with you even to get permits for people after the fact. It's like if they can't find their racking permit, you need to get it. We can do it after the fact. But what's your advice for a lot of our clients? They have an existing system. What's your advice on how to treat an existing system? Make sure it's safe. Make sure.
Well, what we've been doing, what I've been doing a lot recently, is going to an existing facility that most of the time changed hands. Someone acquired that company.
Yep.
And whomever acquired that company says, is your rack permitted? Is that system safe? Is everything okay? And again, in more than likely 9 out of 10 is we don't know. I just started here a year ago and I have no idea. Company is here for 20 years. Well, so they hire someone like me to come in, take a look at it, document the rack components. And if they do not know when the racking, if it's racking, was purchased, we cannot say, if they bought the system 10 years ago and they want to know the capacity, I will tell them, I'll tell you the capacity 10 years ago, because that's the vintage of your rack. So you know what it was when you bought it. Okay, I can't say, let's apply it to today, because that's not fair. Today, we need 2 anchors per base plate instead of 1 anchor per base plate, for example. because of the code gets stringent. That doesn't mean one anchor per base plate is no good. It was good then, and you're allowed, if you got it permitted at the time, at least you're allowed to not have to revise it to something any different than what it has. Now, the thing that used to happen a long time ago, we always at the material handling, local material handling society that we had in LA, we used to have meetings talking about codes. One of them is the seismic code, one of them is the fire code. And we always used to say the fire department said we don't want to do anything, we don't want anything to do with the building department, and the building department don't want anything to do with the fire department. Then they got together and said, wait a minute, we can help each other. So fire department goes in every year, they inspect a warehouse, and they look at something that doesn't look right. So they say you need a high pipe permit. So the customer go get a high pipe permit, and before they give it to him, they say, you know what, you need to go to the city and get a building department permit. And that's been happening a lot.
Yeah.
So the fire department talks to the building department, or the building department goes in and says, that doesn't look right, you better talk to the fire department because you may be in violation. And typically they are in violation. But typically you have a lot of companies that do not want to get bigger warehouses, so they have product that they store on the floor, sometimes in aisles. So they don't take it away. And if you're in an aisle and then another forklift comes in and the aisle is blocked, so we maneuver next to it in the aisle that's narrow to start with, and then we clip the rack, for example, and we damage the rack. And there's been a lot of the damages because of over congestion, and everybody wants the narrowest aisle they can get so they can put more rack in there, while narrow aisles mean tough for maneuvering of the forklift. And if you're tough to maneuver means if I want to do job quick because I'm an incentive program, then I end up clipping the rack and not telling anybody that I did, and just go away and forget about it. And then the rack can collapse, or you get accidents, or that's the other thing that a lot of companies do when, again, they are acquired. They need an inspection to verify that to find out what the capacity of the rack is, and to find out what damage is there that they need to fix. Is if it's a dent that's a quarter of an inch, is that a problem? If a diagonal brace is torn, is that going to be a problem, or is it redundant enough that we don't need it? And things like that. It just so the good news is that with all these acquisitions, all the warehouses are getting upgraded. Like I see on the freeways we're talking today, and so all the freeways are being redone now by adding more lanes and cleaning them up in order, which is something we haven't done for the longest time. Warehouses are getting cleaned up and getting more safer, because OSHA is not letting go either. I mean, that's another factor that comes in and said, you know, you got to do this because of what you cannot have dead end aisles more than, I don't know, you can't block this, you can't have, you can't exit from a building if you have a rack on top of it, unless you have decking or something to cover it, prevent people from stuff falling on their heads when they go through an exit. So it's good. It's getting better. The RMI is had the latest code change since 2012. That was the last time we had a change. So one is coming up now. So it's going to be, I think, 2024, maybe by the time it gets adopted. And in it is more testing, more upscale technology than what we used to do before. Here, and you have to take seismic into account. Doesn't matter where you are. If you're on the West Coast and Midwest, the East Coast and the South, everything has to be designed to take some sort of a seismic force. And they haven't got to the point of taking into account the damage through forklifts, so they can make the eyes a little bit bigger. But what are you going to do? I mean, one thing at a
So that was my other, you went perfectly. And my other question is on dealing with damage. A lot of times it is components that are damaged, like a diagonal brace or, just the front column or just the horizontal. What's your approach for replacing components?
You can replace them. You can reuse them. You can, if something is, let's say that a diagonal got torn out of place.
It happens all the time.
If you get another piece of steel that's the same size and put it in its place and bolt it in, nothing wrong with that, because you're restoring it to what it used to be. Just keeping in mind, now, if you get damage beyond that, the RMI recommends that you get an engineer involved in selecting the better methodology of how to fix the damage. There are a lot of companies that do repair kits, okay? And repair kits became an old thing to say, because there is no one repair kit. It becomes different repair kits. So all the good companies, the ones that want to advance in the repair of rack, they have a kit that's 12 inches high, 24 inches high, 36, 48, 76, up to 144 if they want to. There's a lot of different methods of doing it. And there are sometimes damages that cannot be repaired by a kit. It got to be repaired by someone that knows what they're doing, or take the rack down and get new rack in its place. That's another option. So it is, again, it's good. The rack repair companies want to step up to the plate. They now join the RMI into sitting at the same table and talking about what they have and what they have done, and to show that they are trying to do it the correct way. Same thing. So, or the decking manufacturer that make the wire decks also are in the group, and they work on specifications for wire decking. So it used to be all wire decks were quarter inch wire, and then they became maybe 3/16, maybe now it's, I don't know, 1 gauge and 2 gauge, and just go down to shrinking numbers. So you can't keep reducing the capacity of the carrying capacity, because customers still want something that would last. They don't want something that, if I put the pallet crooked on a shelf and it hits the deck, and then the deck falls down and the pallet falls down, then we haven't accomplished anything. So, and it tarnishes the reputation of the decking manufacturers. So anyway, that's
and you do see some interesting things that people, because it looks like you can build, that's one of my jokes, you can build anything out of racking. I go to like a water park or everything, I go, basically this whole thing is built out of pallet racking.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
And you can take these components, you can reuse them, and you get maintenance departments over the years. Some of the systems I know they're 25, 30 years old, because that's how long I've been in the business, and they were there when I got in this business.
Yeah.
So those systems, and we take pride in maintaining them. I mean, I ask you, that's a lot of the questions I ask you are about that. What do we do in this situation? And we have replaced whole uprights, or we have done replacement components, and it's the right thing for the right client. But basically, it's making everything safer for everybody. I mean, I'm seeing a huge, and there's more awareness. The racks, one of the things I've told my clients, they get used to, the racks can really take a lot. I mean, I've been in places where you look at the racks are so damaged and tweaked, you wonder why it hasn't fallen down, and they don't. But when they do, it's catastrophic. I was looking for a rack collapse video or picture, because I was doing a industry presentation for International Association for Refrigerated Warehouses. Well, back then it was hard to find a clip of a collapse, but the one now they, every time one comes out, my clients send it to me and say, look at
yeah. And it, I always say, when people say what makes the rack fall down, I said it's always 3 things. It's never one. It is rack overloaded, rack damaged, then we run into it with a forklift, or then we have an earthquake and it brings it down. But earthquake does not bring a good rack down unless it's damaged or unless it's overloaded. And I'm talking about overloaded beyond what it was designed for.
Yeah.
Because of ignorance, unfortunately. So that's where the big problems are. Of course, forklifts. And I was when I was with Canfield and before I got into seismic, and we used to make layouts for clients and all that, and they want to save an inch every aisle so they can have a whole bay after 5 or 6 bays. You can gain a bay, and then you have, so you keep shrinking the aisles, and you have wire guidance. Or if it's wire guided, great. But if it's not wire guided, you're relying on the employee that rides that forklift, and if he doesn't pay attention, or if the pallets are overhanging and the product is overhanging off the pallet, that becomes a problem too. And so typically if I go inspect a project, I look at these things. I mean, measure the eye. Why are you measuring the eye? You're supposed to look at the rack, because I want to know, do you have a stand-up trucks, are they reach trucks, or do you have a sit-down gas truck? And if it's sit-down, then that could be, I mean, that's a big guy that needs a lot of
12 to 15 feet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they do a lot of damage when they hit the racks too. The big forklift does a lot of damage.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you for a few personal questions. I said in the introduction that you're a inspiring family man, and you are. So obviously you're the again, I was a little embarrassed too, because I wanted Ron to introduce us, because like, man, I have to know Sal. You know, I got to go to the meeting. He's like, he's retired. Like he's mostly hanging out with his friends and everything. And I was doing it for the wrong reasons, but we developed a friendship, and I forget how long it's been a while now, but Luau Larry's. And but you've been an example for us of just family and the way, you know, business is important and everything like that. But just share a little bit about your approach to I mean, you have such a great group of friends and family, and we've been able to, you know, spend time with you on vacation. Well,
family, we have no family in this country. I mean, Jeannie and I came from Egypt, and this is us. And we have 2 girls, which is great. So now we're a couple with 2 girls. And then the girls, the oldest, which is Nancy, works in the business, and she has 2 boys, and one of them is interning in the business, which is good. Sarah is in Vista, the youngest, and she had the baby. And she also works in the business remote, but she does a lot of the programming and things like that for the company. And we went to, before COVID, 2019, we went to Egypt with a group of friends. We visited the family, and we had everybody that came in was invited to one of the family homes, and we celebrated Sarah's wedding. So family is it. You have nothing but that. I mean, you have friends and you have family. It is very. I used to talk to a friend of mine, Tom Rogers, who's with Western Pacific. I said, it is very difficult. I see it's very difficult in this country for people to make friends. Unless you're school friends that you grew up with, people, they have a lot of acquaintances, but not necessarily friends. That's why I consider Ron Mikas was a friend, because I could go sit down with Ron Mikas and talk about nothing. Okay. We didn't have to do anything other than sit together and maybe have a drink or sometimes play golf. I do the same thing with Jim Radzik. I mean, so I have friends that I enjoy having friends for no reason other than be friends.
Yeah.
Which is the same as family. I mean, you have family, it's your family. So you know him, you enjoy him just the same. If you don't like him, this still okay.
I'm like a adopted foster nephew.
There you go.
From Ron.
But that's true. I mean, when we do the sizzle, and I've been doing it for 30 years now. I think that's what I said. I invite a lot of. It's not a business deal. It is friends. We happen to do business but I said I do business with friends. So if I do business with friends, then I invite the friends to come and be with us, celebrate whatever it is, or anniversary or a birthday, or just to come and play golf and eat and drink and be merry. I mean, it's been good. And a lot of people say, "How come I'm not invited?" Because you're not a friend. I mean, I don't invite people just so I can have more people. I'm just.
Yeah. By the way, that was me, and then Ron introduced us at the Catalina. We went to
We went to Catalina with Ron, and then we went to Catalina together. Yeah. And then we became friends. Exactly. But that's how it started. Once you become friends, then you're in the fold. You become family.
Yeah. And Jeannie's awesome. And then Ron, it was his memorial. You called me. You were the one that called me when Ron passed away. It was emotional day, but I was really glad that it was you. You know, I've really felt that friendship on that day was huge. And then you invited me to speak at his memorial, and if you hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't have prepared. So it was a nice, because there's a ton of people that Ron influenced, Carlos Vega and Ed Apodaca. I mean, there's a long.
Oh yes.
I went to that memorial and I was thinking ahead of time, about the family friends thing. I go, man, this is, I'm still a businessman. I was like, this is going to be a who's who of material handling thing. And so I go, should I leave my business cards at home? Or am I going to be passing out cards? And luckily, Zygmunt Bala was there. And one of the first people introduced, he came up, he shook his hand like this and handed me a business card with the other hand. So I said, well, I guess some people are handing out cards, but I really appreciate that. But I wanted to ask you, what's your, do you have any morning rituals or quirky habits or even secret golf tips that people might not know about?
I'm an open book. What you see is what you get.
Everybody knows.
I like fairness in business. I like ethics, people to have ethics and scruples, and don't necessarily screw your customer or your friend or whatever. I mean, it's just life. Life is good. I mean, you just have to enjoy it and do what you can do the best you can do, without having to ride on somebody's shoulders in order to do it and bring them down. That's not right. When people do that, and I don't need anything from you. You don't need anything from me, other than business every once in a while. But we enjoy sitting and talking after hours, and I go to sleep and you're still talking anyway. but it is the enjoyment of having with people talking about different topics and things like that. And I enjoy talking about business, my business, because my business is my hobby. I mean, so I'm in what I enjoy doing. I enjoy engineering and being a civil structural. This is civil engineering. This is civil engineering. I had an option of becoming an electrical engineer, which was a high level person then at the time when I was in school. I hated electricity. I hated chemistry. And I figured structure, I can relate to structure. Even if it's plumbing, it's part of structural engineering. Even irrigation is part of structural engineering. Building bridges, building homes, whatever you build. So mechanical, cars and all that, no, I'm not. I used to work on my cars a long time ago to fix them, but now that all the electronics, I just drive them till I break them.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
And then lease another one.
And then get
Yeah, you've told me, and you've told me this before, and you live it, your life as example, but it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
You've told me that. And you've been a great friend, mentor. Like I said, we haven't done a lot of business, but we have enjoyed some fun conversations. I know that I can call you. It's an open door if I need to call you. But Sal, I want to be the first to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. This has truly been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And maybe I'll listen to that podcast and find out how good, how bad.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what's your favorite podcast, but it's obviously it's this one.
Oh, yeah, it will be this one. It's I listen to Adam Carolla now.
Oh, okay.
I have been for a while.
Uh-huh.
And I listen to what's her name? That used to be with CNN. And I started her podcast. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, I can't.
But anyway, not too many. But I do a lot of books on tape or books on, what do you call it? Books on tape?
Yeah, but or Audible. Audible is
Yeah, Audible. Yeah, I do a lot of that.
Yeah.
I used to. But Adam Carolla is good. And blonde. Actually, she did the movie with the head of CNN, and who used to be a CNN womanizer.
I know the Chris Cuomo. Is that who?
Huh?
Chris
No,
Cuomo?
no, not Cuomo.
Not
No,
the
no.
other the other CNN. I don't know.
The other one. There's too many of them.
Yeah, there's the CNN woman. They've got a list. There's a list.
Yeah, it's.
I was trying to Google it, but I don't even know what to. If I Google CNN podcast, it doesn't.
It's audiobooks, is what it is.
Audiobooks. Yeah.
I mean, it's in audiobooks and podcasts both.
Yeah, I can't. I'll get in trouble. Once I tried to Google this, I don't.
Megyn Kelly.
Megyn Kelly. Okay.
Yeah. So I listen to her because she's not too extreme right wing, and she's not. Maybe she's leaning more right wing than middle, but listen to both. Doesn't matter. It's like not that we talked about it, but we talk about my views on things. It all depends. I mean, it's I think what a woman does with her body, it's her business. It's not my business. Okay. If you want to have a gun, by all means, you can have a gun. It's not my business either. So there are things that you take from both sides. Be middle of the road, have the good of things and leave the bad of things. That's all it is. Like friendship. You're friends with someone because you enjoy what they do. If they screw you, then they're no longer your friends.
It's simple. It's that simple.
Thanks for listening to the Tao of Pizza podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.